Hey everybody, back on the tube for day 3 of World Youth Day. So these videos obviously aren't sequential anymore because I skipped day 2, which is the day that I'm sure you're all super pumped about to hear because A, you're all super interested in Caritas's work, and B, I talked it up so much on Tuesday. But I'm actually holding off on the day 2 video until tomorrow because it's going to be particularly awesome, and particularly awesome takes time. So as soon as that's ready to go, I will post it for you and you'll be able to hear all about how our Caritas event went, which was really, really great. We're really happy with it. But in the meantime, I'll fill you in on how day 3 went. And if you've been keeping up with the program online, you'll know that the big event for today was the official welcoming of Pope Francis into Krakow. He actually arrived in Krakow last night and he briefly addressed the crowd from his balcony, which was really touching, and I'll put a link to a video of that in the description box of this video. But the official welcoming party was this afternoon and people lined the streets of the city to get a glimpse of him as he drove by. And I'm sure there'll be a video of that as well, so maybe I'll post that in my description of my video tomorrow and you'll be able to see that if you didn't already see it on the news, which you might have. But our Caritas group actually didn't go to the streets to watch the welcoming because today was the only day that we were all able to go as a group to visit a couple of important historical sites that are here in the Krakow area. And by the time we got back into the city, we had missed the whole thing. So we'll have to watch the highlight reel afterwards. But this was a really important trip to make that we did, and it was especially important to me that we went, so it does make it worth it to watch it afterwards. So today, our Caritas group went to visit the sites of Auschwitz and Auschwitz to Birkenau, which are 2 Nazi concentration camps. If you know your history, you'll know that Auschwitz and Birkenau were 2 of the largest concentration camps run by the Nazis during the Second World War. Over 1 million people were executed at these camps, and about 90% of them were Jewish, and about 90% of the Jewish people who ended up at these concentration camps were killed there. These sites are still standing for the most part, and they're open to the public to go and visit. And I'll leave the shocking statistics of those camps to you to research on your own if you already don't know them. But for now, I'll just try my best to reflect and begin to unpack the experience. And really all I can say to start is that it's going to take a long time, I think, to really unpack what it was that I saw and what it's like to stand in the middle of it. It's hard to describe, really. Really hard. You're standing in the middle of a nightmare, like a literal nightmare, except it's not a bad dream, it's something that actually happened. It's a totally different experience, I think, to learn about it in school and to watch it on movies and to hear about it in the news than it is to actually stand right in the middle of it. You can't really prepare for it, and going in, I didn't really know what to expect, but I knew I had to go. I really felt that I had to go no matter how hard it was going to be because I really truly believed that it was important to go. So we began at Auschwitz I, the site of the original concentration camp, and because of the large volume of tourists coming through, especially for World Youth Day, all of the buildings and the museum were actually closed, so we were only able to walk around the outside. This is where the famous "Work Sets You Free" gate stands that all of the prisoners would walk through to get into the concentration camps. And for the most part, it was a one-way ticket. And I felt a little bit uneasy walking through it, to be honest, knowing that I would be walking the same path as so many thousands and thousands and thousands of people who were murdered there. And except I was there as a tourist, and years later, and I knew that I would get out, but I guess it's the luck of the genetic draw that I was born when I was and where I was, but way too many people weren't that lucky. I think what struck me the most at Auschwitz beyond the gate were the small courtyard where prisoners were executed by hanging and by shooting. And there's a shooting wall at the very end of the courtyard that prisoners were shot against, men, women, and children. And all I could do was just stare at it. It was awful. It was awful. Moving on, we saw the infamous gas chambers, there was only one there, where prisoners were mass murdered, and I just stood in front of that door too, and I couldn't, it was awful to see. And next we headed to Birkenau, which is, geographically speaking, a much larger camp, much larger camp. It was massive, it was too big, with multiple bunkhouses and multiple gas chambers, but also multiple memorials to the people who were killed there, approximately 1.5 million people who were killed there. And it's there where the famous railroad tracks are, where people were herded out of trains and sorted and either sent to work or sent to the gas chambers, all within 30 minutes. And unfortunately, 75% of the people were sent to the gas chambers upon arrival. And I think that's what struck me most at Birkenau, just the inhumanity of people sorting other people like they weren't actually people. There's also a pond at Birkenau where the Nazis would dump all of the ashes of the bodies of the prisoners after they were incinerated. And it's unbelievably sad to look at that pond and know that it contains the ashes of over 1 million people who were executed for no other reason than that they were who they were. Just awful. And walking around, we all agreed that it's hard to make sense of what we were seeing and of what we knew happened. And I think the reason for that is that it doesn't make sense. It makes no sense that those people died and were tortured like that and had their humanity and their dignity totally stripped away. There's no sense to it, and because of that, I don't think I'll ever really truly understand what it was that I saw today. I think those camps represent a total black spot in the history of humanity. I think that's because there's no humanity in it. To segregate and divide and harm people and create distrust and suspicion against people who are innocent is totally devoid of humanity, and people know that. And we always say, we'll do better next time, or it won't happen again. But without getting too political, with the way things are in the world, it is happening again, and we're not doing better. But this is next time. We are in next time, and there's way too many people who are not doing better. And we can't let politically created fear of our fellow man make us hateful and intolerant towards them. It's a slippery slope, and what I saw today is waiting at the bottom unless we can get a grip and stand up and embrace each other and respect each other and stand up for people who are having their rights and their dignity and their humanity taken away from them. I think that's true. I mentioned on Tuesday that Pope Francis has called us all to be merciful by truly walking with people and being with them and living their experiences. And it's powerful to me to know that now we've walked through those camps and through the Works Set You Free Gate and at Auschwitz and along the railroad tracks at Birkenau, and that now my friends and I are fellow pilgrims with the victims of the Holocaust. We share that with them, and now we always will. And something that I kept thinking today was that there wasn't a shred of mercy in those places. Otherwise, the mass killings and the tortures and the inhumanity would have never happened. And I said there's no mercy here, over and over. But now that I'm thinking about it and reflecting on it, I think that every time people go to Auschwitz and Birkenau and take that journey with the people of the past, I think that they bring a little bit of mercy with them into those places. And so in that sense, they're not completely devoid of mercy like I first thought. I think they were at the time, but not anymore. I think every time someone chooses to take a walk through those camps, they're choosing to walk with their victims and experience what they experienced. And that's at the heart of what it means to be merciful. And so I think in that sense, I think that this was an extremely, extremely significant and relevant stop to make during this World Youth Day in particular, since, like I said on Tuesday, the theme of this year's World Youth Day is Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. And for that same reason, I think that it's totally appropriate that I was able to share this experience with my Caritas friends, because mercy is at the heart of what it is to live Caritas. And I can't think of any other group of people that I would have rather shared that experience with. And I'll certainly hold this as a very special memory in my heart for the rest of my life, and so I have to thank them for that. That's it for me for now, and I'll be checking in tomorrow with day 4's video and day 2's video. Maybe I'll even make day 6's video while I'm at it, who knows. But for now, I think it's time for me to go to bed, so I will sign off and see you all tomorrow. Thanks for watching.